Hello everyone, it's David McCoy, Ochimo Properties, Real Estate Matters. We are continuing our series on frequently asked questions for commercial real estate. And tonight I thought we'd talk about what constitutes Class A space. If you've never heard of that term before, oftentimes with commercial real estate, properties are classified as Class A or Class B, and sometimes we'll even talk about Class C or D. And although it seems kind of obvious, Class A would be the nicest space. But you can make an argument about, well, what makes it the nicest space? What does something that is Class A have that the others don't have? When I first started in commercial real estate many years ago, I was of the opinion that you can make anything Class A space if you spend enough money on it. And in that idea, I thought that if you have a Class B building and you're willing to spend enough money to get it nice enough, then you ought to be able to get Class A space out of that, and you could rent it as Class A space. But as it turns out, that really is not true. Class A and Class B, even though they might be in the same city and even in the same block, or C or D, just might as well be on different planets. Someone who is looking for Class A space, there's probably nearly 100% chance they would not even consider looking at something that is not already considered Class A space when they are looking for space to lease. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. One reason is prestige, and not to try to paint these people as shallow. I guess some of them may be, but lots of times this is because of their clients. If they have well-heeled clients or perhaps employees, if their employees are people that are highly skilled and highly sought after, then they may feel that they need to have an office area that would be acceptable to those people. And so, knowing that something is already a Class A building and someone's going down there, they sort of know that they're going to a nice place. And so that is a factor. But the other thing is that there's more to it than that. Class A often also has a lot of amenities. For instance, in my market, pretty much every Class A building I can think of in our downtown market has parking. Now, the parking isn't necessarily free, and in fact, I think in almost every case you would pay for that. However, it is there, and the companies don't have to worry about whether or not there's parking for their employees or for their customers when they come down there. They know that there's parking available. So that's a very important thing. There are also possibly other amenities. Besides it being very nice space, which usually it has very nice finishes, there can be some intangible things such as a view. Most Class A space, generally there's a lot of windows, a lot of light. The offices have windows, and many times they have a view. So, kind of because of that, that's one factor that oftentimes the Class A buildings also tend to be larger buildings. Because the larger buildings, one, if they're taller, they generally can get a better view. But also, when they're larger, there's a larger client base to spread the cost of additional amenities over for those tenants. In a smaller building, if you only have, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 square feet, it's just not economically feasible to offer a lot of those things, because the amount of money you would spend on it would just make the rest of the space so expensive that it just wouldn't be able to lease it at that rate. So the Class A buildings tend to be larger buildings. They also have amenities, like they may have, sometimes they'll have a gym. Sometimes they may have building security. Sometimes maybe they might have some other things for all of their tenants, like there might be a cafeteria, or there could possibly be some retail shops on the first floor, which people can take advantage of. So there can be a lot of things that can influence that, and it will change market to market. What I would call Class A space in our central business district may have a different character from Class A space in our suburbs. Some of it is, again, location. Location can be a big factor in what is Class A or not. If you build a super nice building, but it's in a really bad neighborhood, it's very unlikely that that'll ever be considered Class A space. So you have a lot of things to consider there. So Class A can also apply to other types of commercial real estate. You hear it frequently with industrial buildings. Industrial buildings, Class A, tends to be newer industrial buildings. It's not impossible for it to be older, but normally it's newer, and by being newer, it's generally looks more modern, it's nicer, but it also has to do with sort of technological advances. Older industrial buildings, there was, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so ago, there were a few technological changes. One was as simple as a forklift. There was a forklift that was invented, and that forklift allowed people to stack their inventory more than 2 pallets high. They could be 3 pallets high or more, maybe 4 pallets high. And so with that, the demand changed for the type of space. Up until that point, most industrial space that was being built probably had 12, 14 foot ceilings, maybe 16, but rarely any more than that. By being able to extend that up, that allowed them to keep a lot more inventory on hand, and it also made the storing cost of that inventory quite a bit less. So the demand changed quite significantly for taller warehouse buildings with clear span space. So if you have an older building, it's not that you can't lease it out, you can, but it would be probably considered second tier space. So you have to always kind of keep those things in mind. You might also use these terms for other types of commercial real estate. You hear it said for retail some, although not as often with retail. Retail, I mean, I'll hear people talk about Class A, Class B retail space, but it's not used as commonly, although there are obvious changes or obvious differences between those kinds of space. Same thing with multifamily, same thing with hospitality. You'll hear that sometimes. You probably would hear it more with hospitality than you really would with retail. And with multifamily, I think you could probably hear it with multifamily. But those are different markets. So I guess the takeaway here is that Class A space is the nicest space. But it is a subjective definition, and that definition can change from market to market. Although that is the case, I will say that in general, there will be sort of a consensus among people locally as to which space is Class A or not. It probably tends to be newer, but it doesn't have to be newer. You can definitely have historical renovations that can be Class A space. So it doesn't have to be. Some old textbooks and some old videos will sometimes claim that there's sort of a timeline, that if it's more than a certain number of years old, it's Class B, and if it's newer than that, it's Class A. And I would disagree with that. It's really more about the finishes, the location, the amenities, those kinds of things are the things that will set it apart. Class A does tend to be much more expensive than Class B or others. I would say very often 1.5 to 2 times as much per square foot. But it also tends to stay fairly well leased out. Our Class A space here, it's declined a little bit. It used to run very regularly 95% occupied or more. In recent years, and this will be a topic for another video, the demand overall for office space in our downtown area is down a bit. And so it's still above 90%, but it's not as high as it once was. I will be doing a video on office space demand probably a little bit later on, so I'll leave that discussion for them. So those are kind of the basics. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. I would love to answer them. I'd be glad for you to send me an email or drop a comment below. If you like this video, I hope you will click like, and if you feel like somebody could benefit from it, I hope you will share it. And if you want to see more of these videos, I hope you will subscribe. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm getting good feedback from these, and I really appreciate the people who are watching and sharing. And I hope you have a terrific day, and I will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.